Hello everyone, and welcome to December 2022 Romania Power BI and Modern Excel monthly meetup. Thank you all for joining the last meetup of this year with another special guest today, presenting to our user group. Thank you, Tine, for accepting our invitation, and I'm really happy to have you here. For our newest members, my name is Christian, and I will be your host today. The agenda is really straightforward for today. After this short intro, we'll go through our next scheduled meetups in January and February. Then Tine will deliver his session, a short Q&A in the end, if it's still needed, just before our monthly raffle with prizes from Enterprise DNA, our primary official sponsor. And I will tell you more about it a little bit later. This is my usual slide for the session. So during the session, please make sure your microphone is muted and the video is turned off. Well, as I said, mine is on purpose because it crashed my Teams two times. Please type your questions or comments in the chat area and prefix all your questions with a Q so I can spot them easier and address them to Tine. If you have problems with internet connection, please drop off and join again. The meeting is recorded and this is an announcement and a reminder for me because it happened before that I forgot to start recording. This time I just put a bullet here so I don't forget. In terms of next meetups, in January, we will have the one and only Ose du Soleil with a session which is not fully defined yet, but I can tell you that this will be great. So I encourage all of you to join. And then in February, we will have Chandu presenting to our user group, which I think is also very well known in the Excel community and the Power BI community. And I'm really sure this will be also another great session. As soon as I have all the details, I will publish the events on our meetup page, and you as members, registered members, you will be announced of all the details. And in case you couldn't join any other session or you are a new user in our user group, we have all the meetups recorded and published on YouTube. So just go to bits.ly/ropag_history and it's all of them are there. As I said, we have a great partnership starting August last year, so it's 1 year and a half already with Enterprise DNA, who is our primary official sponsor. They have some incredible learning resources on their portal, and they are offering on each of our live meetups 2 annual Enterprise DNA memberships and 2 annual analyst hub memberships, and we will deliver these prizes as a raffle at the end of this meetup. In order to participate in the raffle, please scan the QR code or go to these links. Don't worry if you don't have time to take a screenshot or something, because I will put the links in the chat during the session. Fill up the form. Even if you don't want to participate in the raffle, please fill up the form and let us know how can we improve our next meetups, and we will have the raffle in the end at the end of this session. Coming back to the session today, welcome Tine, and thanks again for accepting our invitation. As I said, I'm really happy you found some time now just before Christmas to come and present to our user group. And I know that not only me, a lot of users from our user group are really anxious and very curious about what you'll present to us. For who doesn't know Tine, he's the man behind the curtain at Zebra BI, a Slovenian software company focused on building custom visuals to better understand your data. Zebra BI, as far as I know, was the first IBCS, so International Business Communication Standard, certified company delivering charts for Power BI and Excel. Probably if you are more into Power BI development, you know that Zebra BI has already 3 custom visuals that they've launched for Power BI, being the first IBCS compliant visuals in the Power BI world. But returning to its original purpose before Power BI, they relaunched some Office add-ins, because as far as I remember, your first charts were in Excel, right, Tine?
Yeah, that's correct.
So in the last month, they invented themselves with some new add-ins and allowing us to build actionable reports in Excel and PowerPoint too. When I saw it back in October or November, I think November, when you launched it, I told myself this would be a great session for our user group, and here we are. So, Tine, a few words about you, and the stage is yours.
Okay, great. Christian, thanks a lot. I will just jump over to my screen. And yeah, well, first of all, hello everybody, and thanks for joining today's session. Secondly, Christian, thanks for the invite. It's a pleasure being here. And hopefully, yeah, this session will be interesting. So today we're going to be talking about how to create actionable reports in Excel. Now, as Christian mentioned, maybe some of you already know us from Power BI, where we, let's say, focused our attention for the last couple of years. But now, as mentioned, yeah, we are going back to the roots. We just launched a new line of products, Zebra BI for Office, a few weeks ago. So today, I'm actually going to show you how all of this looks like in Excel. And during the session, I will explain, of course, why I believe this is the right, let's say, way going forward. Before we start, just a quick intro from my end. So yeah, I'm Tine Ozimic. Currently, I'm head of empowerment team at Zebra BI, and I've been working in the BI for almost 15 years now, mainly on the topics around data visualization, reporting, dashboarding, business intelligence in general. Okay, so quick agenda for today. First, I'm going to explain the term actionable reporting. Maybe some of you already know it, but I will try to demonstrate it on a couple of examples. Then we will continue with a couple of hands-on examples in Excel. This will be kind of the key part of the session. At the end, I will show you a couple of different templates and how they can help you when designing the reports or creating new ones. And we will conclude the session with the Q&As. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me at the end or even during the session. If something is really interesting, no worries. You can just jump in and ask me. Okay, so maybe I will start with this slide because I think it describes the situation that most of the companies or report designers are facing. So in 2022, the issue is not having enough data. The key issue is actually getting something valuable out of it. This is something that most companies are really struggling with. How to get valuable insights out of tons of data. And this is actually what I think is kind of the key process here. We have the data on the left, but then we want to get some valuable insights. We want some information. And at the end, the most important part, we want to take some action, a business decision that would, benefit our company, that would, give us competitive advantage, and so on. And we want to make this distance, as short as possible. And this is something we should always keep in mind when designing reports and dashboards. And to actually do the test whether or not the report that we created or the report that is already in place is meeting those standards, we always advise our customers to do the following. We like to call this a 4-question insight test, and it's actually a really simple thing to do. Just ask yourself or try to answer a couple of really, really basic questions, like, is my performance good or bad? How good, how bad are we doing? And what are the underlying reasons for that? Okay, really basic questions. And this goes back to the definition of reporting that I really, really like, because it's actually really simple. The report, the dashboard should be a tool for business end users to get answers to their question. It's really simple definition, but I think it's on the spot. And let's try to actually do the test on this report example right here. This report looks nice. It has a lot of different colors. It has a lot of different visualizations. But is it actionable? Can it help us get answers to our questions? Well, we can see that our sales performance is almost 1.9 million. But what exactly does this number mean? Is this good performance? Is it bad? How good, how bad are we doing? Are we like 5% above the plan, or are we 50% above the plan, or maybe 20% below the plan? We simply don't know. Okay, so we failed to answer the first key and really simple question. Then again, the same for the second question. How good, how bad are we doing? Well, it's kind of impossible to answer from a report like this. Then we have the third one. What are the reasons for that? Now, of course, if we don't know what our performance is, then it's also hard to talk about the reasons. But even if we would know, it would be, again, impossible to find the reasons that are driving a certain performance. And the key part at the end, what should we do about it? Well, it's really hard to make decisions if we don't understand even the basic concepts behind the report. This would be another example. This, I think, are exact screenshots from Excel environment. And, again, the same problem. Still, millions of companies are basically are using, or millions of users are using Excel on a daily level. And oftentimes reports like that are generated. But, can we really make decisions based on that? This is, I would say, highly questionable. And now I want to explain maybe a different approach on how information is, at least we believe, should be presented. So maybe let's repeat the so-called 4-question insight test on this particular example here. Okay, so we see that our sales is 22.1 million. Now, if I move on to the next visual, I can immediately see that, well, this is actually below the plan performance. More so, I can see that we are performing 1.1 million below the plan. So the first 2 questions we have, we were able to address them. Then if I want to understand what is going on, where is this below the performance coming from? So if I move on the next visual, I can see that, well, in some case we are performing above the plan, then on other months we are performing below the plan. Okay, so because we have integrated variance, we can immediately get better understanding how is our performance like. And this would be already much more advanced chart than I would say a typical visualization, because you have variance integrated in the chart and you can immediately see. Now, Kristen mentioned also the IBCS reporting standards, and one of the key, let's say, rules is that colors should be used with a specific purpose. So if you look at this slide, you don't see like 20 or 30 different colors. But the ones that are being used have a really specific purpose. So if it's something red, we immediately know this is probably something bad. If it's something green, then something positive. But now, if we want to understand what is in the background, if you move on the visual below, well, in the first column we can see how much revenue are we generating. But I think even more important are the next 2 columns. So here we can see our comparison to plan. In some cases, it is slightly above the plan or below the plan. but this element really stands out immediately. Okay, so we can see that women's category is performing strongly below the plan, almost 700K, and this explains most of our gap towards the plan. Now moving on to the next page with a couple of additional insights. We can see on the left where we have this, the so-called small multiples, kind of the big picture of our performance. So we have a dedicated chart for every single category. We can see the trends, we can see the variances, so we can see the overall impact. Everything is also scaled in place or in the proper way so that we immediately see which elements generate more or, for example, less revenue. And as mentioned on the first page, we can see that women's category is the most problematic one. We can see stable below the plan performance from January to July. So we didn't have like one really bad month because, for example, the stores would be closed or something like that. We are actually having, a problem here, and we need to address it quickly. Otherwise, we're just gonna continue with the below the plan performance, which at the moment is almost 1/3. So as I was saying, this is kind of the actionable reporting approach to how to visualize the data. And hopefully I was able to demonstrate the difference between, let's say, the old approach and the new one. But, we wanted to bring all of that to Excel as well, because still a lot of analysis, a lot of different reports and so on are done within Excel. And Excel is still #1 BI tool, despite all the Power BI hype and so on. Still, I would argue Excel is the #1 BI tool, and we have some numbers to back it up. So according to the data, so Office 365 is still being used by more than 120 million active users on a monthly basis, which is, insane number. More than half of businesses around the world are using, Microsoft Excel for their daily task. And regardless of the development, Excel will stay here. It's the most commonly used tool. It's the most user-friendly tool. For sure, it's here to stay. And also direction where Microsoft is going, it is going towards cloud. And Excel is like being I would say, included with all the great updates. So we know more advanced stuff like, I don't know, Power Pivot and then Power Query and so on. All those things were in Excel originally. So, there are a lot of really powerful things you can do in the background. And of course, Microsoft is also putting a lot of effort into Power BI and Excel integration, which is something that, again, it's a clear indication that both tools are here to stay. And what we wanted to do with our products is to actually bring the user experience from Power BI also to Zebra BI for Office. To actually create seamless cross-platform experience across all the tools, because Power BI will probably in most of the companies never be adopted in every single department. However, they might be using Excel, and we wanted to give them the tool so that they can also create actionable reports without any extensive Power BI knowledge and so on. And the same goes also for Office for PowerPoint. So this is kind of the reason why we decided to create new products. But now enough with the theory, let's jump over to Excel and actually check out how you can build actionable reports within Excel. So maybe I will start on this blank page. Okay, we don't have anything here. What we want to do is build something really simple. So if we want to use Zebra BI visuals, we can get them from the official app source. So you can just go under search, type in Zebra, press enter, and then the visuals should appear here. If you want to add them, of course, just click on the add button. But since I already have them here, I will skip this step and maybe just build something from scratch. So first, let's start maybe with, maybe let's go with the chart. So as soon as I click on it, you will see that add-in will appear on your sheet. And here you can already use the so-called chart selector that can help you create or select the visualization that you want to use. So you have, icons that can help you along the way with some explanations in the tooltip. And by already looking at the icons, maybe you can get the idea what do you want to show. So maybe let's go with this chart. I can just simply click on it, and visualization will be created out of the box. So on the left, I will have some dummy data that, of course, I can customize and replace with my data, but also visualization will be generated automatically out of the box. So that would be kind of the first step. It's really simple to use. You just insert the visual and then select whatever visualization you want to use. Now, I won't go too into the details here because I will demonstrate charts later on. But maybe let me continue with the second visual, which would be the table. Now, of course, charts are being used when we want to show some kind of a performance for a certain period of time, but tables are usually used for some kind of a categorical analysis, typically also with deeper, with more data in the background and so on. And what I have on the left is really basic table. So I have, couple of categories, then I have my actual data, previous year plan, and some comments. Now, there are a couple of different ways how you can create reports. So that would be the first one. You can just simply select cell range or range of cells, and then just simply insert the add-in. So this time I'm going to go with tables. And as soon as I do that, again, visualization will appear with just a couple of clicks. Let's maybe resize it so that it would fit nicely into the template. But yeah, here is our presentation of data on the left. And I guess what you noticed is that we have some additional series that were generated automatically. So we have our previous year data, actual and plan, but then Zebra automatically generated variances compared to previous year and plan. Okay, so this is created automatically, and it's super useful because we can immediately understand how we are performing. Okay, so you immediately spot this element, compared to previous year, we have really bad performance here. Now, if I want to explore my data a bit more, I can just simply apply, for example, a sorting. You can do that by just clicking on the column menu, and you can switch between 3 different sorting options. So one would be the default one from your data source. The second one would be ascending and descending. And let's say you want to just, focus on the worst performing elements, you can just simply apply sorting on the variance and they will appear on the top. So I can immediately see, well, these 4 are performing, poorly. Of course, you can do that on every single column. And I can also do a lot of different things. So I can apply different formatting options. Like, let's say I want to highlight this color a bit more. I can just simply apply a background. I can also rename the columns. So let's say you want to create this report for a Romanian audience. Now, I don't know how you call plan in Romania, but let me just rename this to maybe data plan, press enter, and now I have new column name.
It's exactly like this, plan.
Okay, that was a great example. I guess previous year would be a bit harder. But yeah.
Yes.
For sure, you can rename the columns in a really simple way. By the way, you can also switch between different calculations in the background. So by default, you will always compare your actual data to your, let's say, comparison measure. But in some cases, you can also go maybe with previous year versus plan comparison. Or maybe plan versus forecast comparison. That would be, I guess, even a better one. And as soon as I do that, calculations will be automatically adjusted and also visualized in a different way, because this time we are comparing plan, and according to IBCS, plan should be visualized with kind of empty bars. But yeah, this is something you can simply apply by just selecting on the drop-down menu. Now on the right, you can also see some comments that you can resize, and if you have more space for your report, additional insights will be presented. I guess you noticed that before we had numbers, and then if we make it bigger, we will have also the relative variances presented. Okay, so this is the so-called auto-responsive layout, which will adjust to your visual size. But maybe the most important part, you can also switch between different visualizations. So on each column menu, you have different chart types. Let's say you want to go with the waterfall chart. which is typically something that's very useful in finance, for example, you can just select that. And you can also, of course, show it with numbers. Maybe let's switch actuals and let's organize this descendingly so that we have our top selling units at the top. And yeah, there is our visualization. So it's very easy to use. I would say you just select data ranges, insert the visual, and then customize it according to your needs. Now, maybe one last thing before we move forward, you can use the so-called slider, where you can switch between two different layouts within the same visual. Oftentimes when you create reports, you have end users that just want to see charts, but then you have end users that prefer numbers, and it's actually hard to kind of deliver to both of them. Here it's actually really easy to do. So of course you can customize this individually further on, but maybe you can go with more top level approach on the first page with more visualization and bring in additional details with more numbers on the second page, and end users can simply switch between both views. Yeah, last but not least, one of the things that are really powerful when creating reports are comments. Now we all know, the Excel feature where you is it under review, where you can write the comment and then just comment something. But this one is much more powerful. Let's say you want to comment this specific element. No, sorry, I'm just gonna add like really random text. But when I press enter, you see this will automatically appear on the visual, including the comment marker for this particular unit. Okay, I can then also maybe switch this to delta plan if I want to comment that. But the logic is pretty simple. You just enter the comment, press enter, and these additional insights will appear on the visual instantly. So super easy to use, but at the same time, super powerful.
And then one question. Regarding what do we search to get Zebra BI? It was so quick that some of our guests missed it.
Oh, sorry for going too fast. So the first step would be, go under Insert tab and click on Get Add-ins. Now this will open official Office add-in platform, and here you just type in Zebra. Okay, Zebra, you can write Zebra BI, maybe just ZEB or whatever, press enter, and then the visuals should appear here. Okay, so we have the charts, we have the tables, and once you're done, you just click add, and that's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and then once we're done, we can maybe just hide the data source on the left and just keep this template as the official report. Okay, so that would be quick presentation of the tables. Now let's continue with the second one. This time we have Zebra BI charts. We're not gonna use chart slider this one, but rather this one. So Excel table, which is the second option of how you can prepare your data in the background. You can simply just place yourself on the table, press Control T, and then the table will appear. Okay, Excel tables, of course, have a lot of benefits. One of them is that if you add additional data, it will automatically be included in the data range and so on. So in general, I would advise to go with Excel tables. And now let's this time insert Zebra BI chart. So that would be the second visual, and again, visualization will be created automatically. Let's expand it. Now we can clearly see that something is not okay on the visual. So let me demonstrate how you can access additional settings. In the top right corner, you can find this settings icon. And here I have two options. One would be the settings. The other one would be, let's say, field pane. I don't know exactly how to call it. I think in Power BI it's called field pane. But yeah, let's just move forecast.
Formatting pane.
Yeah, formatting pane. Thanks, Christian. And let's move budget also to plan. So, okay, now our chart makes sense. What we can also do is maybe make the font a bit bigger. So let's increase the font size. Of course, I can do a lot of different things, maybe like add grand total or yeah, switch between different layouts, format of numbers and so on. But let's just leave it for now. So again, we have a chart with just a couple of clicks, and this is now, again, I would say much more powerful visualization than something we would typically get out of the box. Chart slider is even more powerful here because you can switch between different charts that are predefined in the background. So basically, all you need to do is just decide which chart do you want to use. Then there are a couple of different things, like, for example, you can switch between different labeling options just by clicking on the labels. You can even break the axis in some cases. Now, use this cautiously, but if you want to use it in some cases, then yeah, the option is there. You just simply click on the axis. And as mentioned before, comments, again, super easy. You just type in the text, press enter, and the comment will appear on the visual. Maybe just one more thing I want to show here is that we have a feature that can really be helpful when designing the reports, and it's called responsive layout. So let me demonstrate how this can help you. Layout is adjusted based on the size of the visual. So now that I have a lot of space and I have big visual, I have additional insights. So I have my relative variances, absolute variances, and my actual data. But if I start making it smaller, you see now the layout will be adjusted. So now the absolute variance were added to the bars. If I make it even smaller, now I have fully integrated variance chart. But this is still much more powerful because you have variance for every single column and you immediately can understand how you are performing. Now, I mentioned that also, visuals are responsive, and one of the benefits of using tables is that you can simply just add the data. So let's maybe add data for June, something random. Let's press enter, and as soon as I do that, you see it will appear on the visual instantly. Okay, and now this chart is also a bit specific because we don't have actuals for the full year, which is typically the case. I mean, now we are almost at the end of the year, so maybe not the best timing, but typically you have your actuals to a certain point, but not for the full year. But then you have budget and forecast. And in this chart, Zebra will automatically detect that. And once actuals are no longer available, it will switch to forecast versus plan comparison, so that you can compare if your forecast, for example, is a positive correction or a negative correction of your plan. And let's say if we want to maybe even increase this one, you just correct your forecast data, press enter, and immediately it will appear on the visual. So super easy to use. The next example would be the so-called bridge chart. Again, this is, I would say, a specific version of a chart, but nevertheless, it can be really powerful. So let me demonstrate how you can control that. On the left, we have, I would say, typical financial data where we have like a starting point of 2020, then we have end point of 2021, and then we have a certain elements like different revenue types and cost types and so on that are either increasing or decreasing our overall financial performance. And for that, we want to show it in the following way. So let me switch first to waterfall chart. And now I will actually customize every single element on the fly on the visual. So at the moment, we all agree that this visual doesn't make a lot of sense, because this is actually not, I would say, a positive contribution, but this is a result. This is a starting phase. So first, let's mark it as a result. Now we have the beginning of our waterfall chart. Next, we can simply see our revenue data. So this makes sense. It's green because it's contributing, but then we have a couple of negative elements that we can control on the fly. So we can just simply do the right click, select invert, and the variance logic will be inverted automatically. So let's do the same for this element, this one, this one, this one. I think it's okay, and this should result in like our total EBIT for 2021. Okay, now our waterfall chart is starting to make sense. In the final step, we have some kind of a currency change, and this is our final result. So let's mark it as a result. And maybe let's resize the comments. And yeah, there's our waterfall chart with results in between, with all the variances out of the box, and with all the difference highlight in between. So on a total level, the growth was 12%. If we neglect the currency change, it was 15%. But yeah, now we have like much better understanding how our, let's say, EBIT for 2021 was generated.
Few
Speaking
clicks
of
to get something really cool.
Yes.
Only a few clicks away.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, so the key point here is you just prepare the data that you want to show. You can use different ways how to do that. So in this case, I'm just using simple tables. Of course, I could be using links in the background, so where all of my calculations will be done. I could be using, I don't know, get pivot data from pivot tables. So this is a data source, and what I do in the background doesn't really matter. I just need data that I want to show on the visual.
I have a question here. Can we use as a source a pivot table, or we have to get the data out of the pivot table with get pivot data with formulas?
Yeah, great question, Christian. And this was, this is perfect timing, because next example that I wanted to show was precisely with pivot tables. And yeah, absolutely, great. Pivot tables can be used. As a matter of fact, if you want to use the most advanced functionalities, I would advise you to actually use the pivot tables. So absolutely no limitations. And let me demonstrate that on P&L example. So we have pivot table on the left. It's quite simple. We have just two levels. So we have like top level accounts, and then we have a bit more detailed accounts, and we have, again, actuals and planned data or previous year data. So this is pivot table. I have just those 4 fields. Of course, I could have huge pivot table with, I don't know, 50 different dimensions and a lot of columns and so on. But you just organize a pivot table according to what you want to show. So let me demonstrate what do we want to show with this P&L report. Again, I'm going to use Zebra BI tables, and we already get a solid report. So this would already be, I would say, a report better than most of P&L reports in Excel, because again, you have out of the box variances. Yeah, glad you agree. But again, the key part, you immediately see where your performance is okay or not so okay. There are a couple of problems though, so we need to do a couple of more fine-tuning here. So what I want to do first is to actually show this with the waterfall chart. I think this is a great option for finance, especially for P&L or I don't know, balance sheet and things like that, because you can see what is contributing and what is decreasing your profitability in this case. So I think waterfall chart is a great option. But this still doesn't look okay. I guess we all agree. So we have our revenues, which makes sense. We have 5 different revenue types, and in total, this is our sales revenue. But then we have cost elements. And if you look at the waterfall chart, this looks like costs would be somehow contributing to overall profitability, which is of course not the case. Costs are of course decreasing profitability, and that's why we need to invert them. And the good news is you can do that in a really simple way. You just do the right click on the element. You can invert individual element, or you can invert all children, which is something I want to do. So I want to invert the entire expenses category. And now this is starting to make sense. Just one more thing, I need to apply sorting because I want to keep the sort order of my categories from the pivot table on my visual. And if I want to do that, I want to have custom sorting. Okay, so now it makes sense. So we just inverted the costs. So this looks now much better. We have revenue, then we have costs, and then sales revenue minus expenses is our operating profit. So this is actually a result of 2 previous elements. Again, that's why we just do the right click and mark it as a result. Once we do that, we will get that bar that will start at 0 and will actually be a result of previous elements. Then we have 2 incomes. This is okay. Again, this is a result. Then we have some text. This is, of course, cost. So let's invert it. This is a result. This is invert. And finally, we have our total group profit. So let's mark it as a result. And now you see our P&L makes sense. Okay, so we can see how much revenue are we generating, how much costs are we having, and then all the elements in between at the end will result in our, let's say, group profit. Now, if I want to show it with even more visuals, I can maybe also show previous year data. I have my variances. I can go with that. By the way, of course, the variance color has been now switched accordingly. So if you look at the revenues, everything higher than previous year, of course, is green, which makes sense. If we generate more revenue, this is positive, this is green. If we are having higher costs, of course, this is a negative thing. So that's why the red color. Okay, this would be automatically applied along with invert properties. But yeah, now we have like clear picture how our profitability is being structured, where are we having problems. So we are kind of doing okay on the revenue side, but we are having problems with the costs. That's why our profit maybe it's not as high as it would be. So we can see all those informations. Now, Christian, since we are using pivot tables, going back to your original question, we can also use a couple of more advanced things, like, for example, use the so-called expand and collapse buttons in a really similar way we can use in Excel. Or on pivot tables, you can do that on the visual as well. So if you hide this part, now I can use the expand and collapse buttons on the visual to control, the level of detail I want to show on a particular report.
This is really cool. It's dynamic, almost like in Power BI.
Yeah, this is something what I was mentioning at the beginning. For this, we are actually using more or less the same code as for Power BI. Of course, some things are not yet supported, like, for example, I cannot add tooltips or I cannot make a drill through, for example, like in Power BI. However, otherwise, yeah, experience is basically the same as in Power BI, which is something, as mentioned at the beginning, we wanted to achieve with those visuals.
Will you touch on the licensing at the end?
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to keep that for the end.
Okay.
So maybe let's address it then. Perfect. One more thing I want to show you here is also something that, well, it's, I would say, a typical Excel feature, but you can also do it on the visual. This one, I guess it's even more powerful in Power BI, but let me demonstrate. So this is our operating profit in absolute numbers. But now let's say we want to show this as a percentage. So what is our basically gross margin, right? Sales revenue minus expenses. I will just do the right click, but this time select add formula element. And at the top, it will appear something really similar to what we have in Excel. So if you look closely, you see this part, it's really similar to this one right here. But yeah, back to the formula. Now, I will just give this element a name. So let's go with gross margin percentage. Then I will write a simple formula. So my expenses divided by sales revenue. So this is now the formula. I want to show it as a percentage, and I want to format it maybe with the blue color so that it will be distinguishable from other elements. So let's just click save. Let's click add. And you see, we created new element on the visual. You see our gross margin percentage, 65.8%. AC is actually higher, so we have 3.9 percentage point the difference. And yeah, this is actually element we created on the fly on the visual. Okay, now maybe
visual level calculations.
Yeah, right. Precisely. Yeah, row level calculation. Now, one last thing I want to show you here are the small multiples. I think I showed the slide in the PowerPoint, but the reason why I love this is because I think it's really powerful. So again, I'm using pivot table on the right, where I have, okay, so I have some business units, I have two columns, or sorry, should I say measures? Measures, I guess it's not the correct name in Excel. value columns, let's call it like this.
Implicit measures are here. It's okay.
Yeah, okay, we could go with implicit measures as well. But essentially, once my pivot table is, let's say, prepared, I will again select Zebra BI charts. But now, once I do that, I should have a dedicated chart for every single element. Okay, so you see just a 3 clicks, and let's expand this. But now I have like a lot of elements for every single of my business unit in pivot table. And with all the cool things I mentioned before. So we have variances calculated automatically. We can see the total impact. We can see the big picture because we have scaling in place. So we can see what is relevant and what is not maybe so relevant. But even though I can just simply click on this category, and in the focus view, I will see details. So if you want to understand it a bit more, you just simply click on the element and it should pop up with more insights. All the things I mentioned before, chart slider, this works perfectly fine also on the small multiples. So yeah, all in all, I think this is really powerful presentation of the data because we have the trends, we have dedicated charts, we have variances calculated automatically, and this is really powerful, I think. And one of the really cool features of using pivot tables is, well, I just want to make this okay. Let me just try one more thing. Sorry for that. I would want to go with grid for 3 columns. Let's try one more. Okay. It doesn't matter. So one of the benefits of using pivot tables is that, of course, you can do all the things that you would typically do with pivot tables. Like, for example, I can just simply go to pivot table and insert a slicer. I could go with months, business units, whatever, basically. But since I already have a slicer here, I can just use it to switch between different years. You see? So now I've switched to 2018. This slicer filtered down my pivot table, and of course this was reflected on the Zebra BI visuals that we have here. So let's make it a bit bigger. Now I can simply switch between 2017, 2016, and this is now already like really close to what I would say dashboard experience, but this time in Excel. Maybe one additional example. So here I have, again, pivot table with lots of data. Now this would be an example of pivot table with much more data. So I have more KPIs, I have more dimensions, and I have like really long list of how our countries, not our countries, but how countries are performing. Okay, so we can see, okay, we have United States, Canada on the top, Germany, but that makes sense. Of course, United States will probably generate more, let's say, revenue than, I don't know, Norway that has, I don't know, 2 million of people. But what I want to focus on this visual is maybe more on the variance. I want to understand where we have like the biggest outliers. So for that, I will switch this to waterfall chart. I will switch this to numbers. And okay, now I see how we are doing on each individual country. Now I will apply a sorting, and what I can see now at the top, I can see my positive outliers. So where we have the biggest growth compared to previous year. Then in between, most of the countries are actually performing more or less aligned with plan, which means everything is okay there. And then at the bottom, we have the so-called negative outliers, which is again typically something you want to focus your attention to, positive and negative outliers. And for that, we can do like a really cool thing. So let me show you how we can apply the so-called top N. Again, I'm just going to do the right click. I'm going to select top/bottom N option. So I could go with top N. This would, select the top elements. I could go with bottom elements, but actually I want to have combination of both. So that's why I'm going to select top plus bottom N option. I want to apply it not on AC, but actually on delta to previous year. So the variance. And then I want to show maybe, let's say, top 12 elements. I will press OK. And you see, now I have all the elements right here. Maybe one more thing. Let's add maybe grand total. Okay, so I can see the total impact, but now all the elements in between were grouped together. We didn't filter anything out, still everything is here, but now we can really focus on the outliers. Okay, so we can see that, yeah, our positive outliers compensate the negative outliers, which is a good thing. And then, yeah, we can use maybe slicers, filters to narrow down the data. But the logic is, now that this is much more compact, we can make it much smaller. This, maybe we can even hide this one. We can make it smaller. And now we can use the rest of the page for additional insights, charts, tables, whatever, basically. So that would be the top end, and it can be great for organizing the data in a smarter way. And maybe one last example. So that would be, again, example with the pivot table. So this one is a bit more complex. It has 4-level hierarchy, which of course is supported. And then I can use drill down to actually, let's say, expand the entire field and check things more in details. Now I can go on the product level, just simply click here, and now everything will go really into the details, but still everything is running within one visual. Visualization is in place, scaling is in place, and all the other things that I showed along the way. So speaking of pivot tables, this is really powerful because, as you probably know, pivot tables can be connected to different data sources. If I just maybe show a couple of them, so I could connect directly to the database, extract some data from the database, organize everything in a pivot table, and then use this type of visualization to really create actionable reports. I could also maybe go to existing Power BI datasets. So if I select this one from Power BI, now on the right, I will actually see all the data models that I have that are shared with me in my Power BI tenant. So, you can also use or share already existing data sets from Power BI with end users, but in Excel environment. And with that, you control the access rights and so on. And then end users can just simply access this via pivot tables. So maybe let's just search for something. And then you can just simply insert the pivot table, and you will have connection to your Power BI data set with, of course, all the fields that are included in that particular data model. And you can start building your reports. So you can add actual data, you can add your dimensions, for example, and then in the next step, you just simply insert the visuals that I showed you before and create actionable reports in Excel. Now, before we go into the Q&A, I just wanted to mention templates. So templates can be like a really cool, how should I say, helping tool when building reports. You can find a lot of them on our website. You can either use them as a source of inspiration, or you can just simply, replace the dummy data with your own data from the, let's say, reports or cases that you are trying to visualize within your companies. And of course, this will automatically appear on the visual with all the structure in place and so on. So this can be one way how templates can be really useful. And you can do a lot of different things. So that would be an example of a bit more complex chart with a lot of let's say elements in between. But the key point here, you can really see the structure of how your business is going, in which direction, where we have problems and so on. And then finally, I wanted to show you a couple of more, let's call it slightly more advanced dashboard-like reports. So that would be one example of the sales report, where again, we didn't do anything special. So we have our data source table, and then we just created a couple of pivot tables here, just two basically. And again, then we use just out-of-the-box functionalities, pivot tables that look like filter, and slicers that look like, slicer in Power BI, for example. But now I can switch maybe between month-to-date and year-to-date data just by simply clicking on the button. I can switch between different months. So let's maybe move to April. Of course, now everything should be filtered accordingly. And I can also use it for maybe selecting specific country. Do we maybe have Romania in here? Sorry, no, we don't. We'll add it. So United States, maybe. Okay, now this field. But yeah, now the data has been filtered just for United States, so all the pivot tables here were filtered for United States, and since Zebra BI visuals are using exactly those pivot tables as a data source, everything was reflected on report as well. Maybe one more example that would be more towards finance. Here we have even more slicers, so we can switch between different years, months, we can switch between different KPIs. So let's go maybe to net earnings. You just simply select that. And of course, everything is filtered accordingly. And this is, I would say, an example of a good dashboard because we have a lot of, let's say, analytical elements here. So we can select region, customers, KPI, months, years. Then we have table for a bit more detailed information on a period calculation. So what is our month-to-date performance, year-to-date performance, full-year performance? Then we have even more detailed information where we use the top entry that I showed before for the outliers. And we also have the trends here so that we can see how we are performing through a certain period of time. But the point is, even in Excel, you can create really powerful reports aligned with all the good practices of actionable reporting, IBCS compliant reporting. And yeah, as mentioned at the beginning, especially for those departments that will probably never use Power BI, this can be a great way of bringing actionable reporting there as well. And before we go to the Q&A, maybe just one really quick thing also in PowerPoint. So you can do basically the same things also in PowerPoint. If you want to build an awesome presentation, you want to add a really powerful chart, you can just simply select the chart. Visual will appear. You will have input window where you can just either type the comments or maybe change the data. And once you're done, just press enter and the visualization will be automatically created. Okay, good. That would be kind of all from my end. Now, Christian, back to you. And of course, to all of you guys, if there are any questions or additional explanations that would be needed from my side.
It was a great session, and I love that even if I saw it for the second time, I'm still finding out some new things. So probably I haven't dabbled enough with your templates because I remember I downloaded the zip with the 20-something files inside. So for our users, if you go to zebraba.com, you can download a package, a zip package with all the templates that Tine was talking about. There was a question related to licensing. What type of licensing do you have for it? And is it free? Is it limited free? Is it a period full functional free? Or can you please explain a little bit on licensing?
Yeah, of course. So at the moment, we have, of course, a couple of different licensing options. One of them is, I would say, the freemium mode, which is actually what I was using during the presentation. So first, key message, a lot of things can be done with the free version. You will get like a small watermark below, but yeah, you can use it for free. So if you want to test it out, you can go and just start using the free version. Then I believe I already have this open. Then, yeah, there are a couple of different plans. So I mentioned the free ones. Then we have Pro plan, which is, built annually. It covers up to 20 users. You can use either Excel or PowerPoint. And yeah, of course, all the things I mentioned will be gone, like branding and things like that. Then, of course, we also have a business package, which is for enterprise companies. It covers up to 200 users. Both products are included, and so on. And yeah, for the bigger companies, we then have special enterprise, let's say, deals. That depends on the case.
On the number, yeah. Sure.
So it's quite simple. Yeah, basically two payable plans, and then the third one is the enterprise.
So if you want to use it for personal use,
Yeah.
one can use it directly from Zebra BI and actually understand its own data. And then if you want to use it for business, you start paying for it. I have one more question.
Yeah, please.
I know that in Power BI you have 3 types of charts, and you also have the card visuals. Do you have any plan to bring that one too to Excel?
Yeah, good point. Good point. So well spotted. I haven't mentioned Zebra BI cards, which is the third visual. And this one is really cool for presenting top level KPIs, like maybe on this example right here. There's a lot of different things you can do with that. But yeah, at the moment, it's not yet available in Excel. However, for sure, along the way, we will support that as well. And yeah, we had to start somewhere, so we went with tables and charts, which are the obvious ones. But cards are for sure planned for the near future. So
well, good to hear it. Good to hear it.
No worries.
I'm using the cards in Power BI a lot, and they are really helpful.
Okay, I will pass that information to our development team to even increase the priority.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the audience, if you have any questions, now is the time. Because otherwise, we will go quickly to the raffle, and then we can stay a bit more for chit chat when I stop the recording. No one in the chat. I suppose it was really clear. Well, it's either there are 2 options, either 3 options actually. Either it was a great session and everybody understood everything, or it was a wow session and everybody's just wowed. Or the third option that I wouldn't want to mention, the one that nobody understands anything. Usually these are the time when nobody's asking things. But anyway, I really think it
sincerely
was.
hope that it's more towards first and the second one. But
Yeah. Me too. I'm sure it was like this.
In case you have any questions, you can always reach us also via our official support channel. So yeah, if anything pops up after the session, we'll gladly help you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Tine. It was really great session, and I will put the recording on our YouTube channel in the next 2-3 days. Thanks again for dropping by and showing us this. I'm sure a lot of users, I already see in the chat that Christy and others will probably use it in the company from now on, even in Excel. And I'm sure that even for personal use, just to get insights out of your data, you can use it first and then try to convince the management to get the licensing and everything.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And yeah, thanks a lot. It was a pleasure, and I'm wishing everybody pleasant evening.
Well, thank you. Thanks again, and let's go quickly to the Enterprise DNA raffle and see how do we stay there. I hope my screen is visible. It should be visible. So let's refresh. I'm using the form, and I have a flow to get the data from the form and put it in a SharePoint. And I'm using Power BI report to get data from SharePoint and plot it on the inside the Power BI report on the map. And also inside here, I'm having a Power Apps. If you are curious to see how this was done, I have a session on our YouTube channel, so it's easy to understand. I showed all the steps there. At the beginning, I was using Power Apps to randomize the numbers until I found a glitch, and now I'm using a different tool, the Wheel of Names. So But in order to get the names, let's go into Power Query and get the people participating in the raffle. So Shift plus, 7 participants, copy, and let's go to the wheel of names. But before that, I need to stop sharing first and share again with sound, because this one has a drum roll. So I wouldn't want to miss it. So let's paste it. Shuffle the names and spin the wheel. Georgiana, congrats, you are our first winner. Really cool. And let's shuffle again and spin the wheel for the second winner. Sandra from Slovenia, congrats, you are the second winner. So thank you all for joining. For the winners, I will send an email later tonight to confirm your email address. And I think it's a good Christmas present. Thank you all for the entire presence over the year in Romania Power BI user group. Wishing you all Happy New Year, happy holidays, and see you in January. For whoever wants to stay a bit more, I will stop the recording and allow everyone to share the screen or unmute and go on video, and we can stay a bit more for chit chat. Thanks again, Tine. It was really good having you here. So happy holidays, everyone.